Welcome. You are right on time. My name is Galleon, and today we're stepping into one of Seiko's quieter corners, the Seiko Selection line. It's part of the catalog you won't see plastered across Instagram, but it might just hold the key to one of Seiko's biggest balancing acts, keeping entry-level buyers excited while the Seiko 5 and Prospect ranges continues to climb in price. And right here, with the SBTR057, or as I like to call it, the Green Racer, Seiko may have just found a very tidy answer. Spoiler alert though, this thing is an absolute banger. Honestly, I don't think I've had as much fun with an entry-level Seiko or any of its competitors in quite some time, and that says a lot. Part of what I love doing on this channel is making watch collecting more accessible, shining a light on affordable, value-packed gems that don't need you to spend thousands of dollars to enjoy a great watch. The Green Racer is exactly this kind of watch, and today we're going to be seeing why. Before we get into the review, let's briefly discuss the Seiko Selection line of watches, which is a bit of a stealth operator. While collectors outside Japan often obsess over the modern Seiko 5 model line, Prospect divers and field watches, or presage dress pieces, the Selection line tends to go unnoticed. But if you squint, it almost feels like Seiko's attempt to win back the people who once turned to the brand for affordable, reliable everyday watches. Think of it as Seiko's way of saying, okay, yes, we've been getting a little fancier lately, but here's something you can still buy without selling a kidney. The Green Racer is a great example of this. On the surface, it might just seem like just another Quartz chronograph. Dig deeper though, and you see a compact, vintage-inspired sports watch with just enough refinement to punch above its weight, and just enough quirks to remind you that this is very much still a Seiko. The Green Racer is proof that Seiko hasn't forgotten its roots, even as its main lines climb higher in price. Running the numbers, you get a 38.5mm stainless steel case, 12.5mm thick, including the boxed Hardlex crystal, with a very compact 44.5mm lug-to-lug, housing the 8T63 Quartz chronograph movement, the equivalent of the ubiquitous VK63 movement that Seiko offers to third parties for their own chronographs. The 8T63 provides for a tri-complex or triple register layout, offering a central chrono seconds, a 60-minute counter, running seconds, and a 24-hour register, plus a date at the dreaded 4:30 position, but more on that later. The case itself carries fully radial brushing, which is fitting given the watch's sports leaning. With the screw-down caseback, water resistance comes in at 50 meters, so we're talking splash-proof and rainproof, not swim-ready. It's an everyday companion, not a weekend diver. Complementing this sporty case is a bracelet that leans into the vintage vibe. A 5-link stainless steel design that feels like a nod to the 1970s. Most of it is brushed, with just enough polished inner links to catch the light without veering into gaudy territory. It tapers nicely too, from 20mm at the lugs down to 15 at the clasp, which is a stamped button release affair. The articulation of the links gives it a surprisingly comfortable fit on the wrist, especially when compared to Seiko's more common entry-level 3-link bracelets. Visually, it adds a sense of refinement, giving the Green Racer a more premium look than the price tag would suggest. Now, that's not to say that it's perfect. The jangly charm of a Seiko bracelet hasn't completely disappeared. The pushpin system for resizing feels a bit old school, and there's no quick release for strap changes or on-the-fly adjustment in sight. So yes, it still has that entry-level Seiko energy if you go looking for it. But compared to where we've been before, this is progress. On my 6.2-inch wrist, the watch wears beautifully. The bracelet wraps nicely around the wrist, and the compact Goldilocks case proportions makes for a very balanced wear through the day, as opposed to the more imposing presence of mechanical chronographs. Let's be honest though, you're not buying this watch for its case dimensions. The star of the show is without question the dial. Seiko has gone with a concave surface finished with a deep, sunburst British racing green. It's a dial that shimmers and shifts depending on the light. Black in low light, bottle green in natural light. dynamic without ever straying into flashy. It's a perfect pairing with the tachymeter bezel. That bezel deserves some real praise. Slim aluminum, crisp silver printing, and color match to the dial, it locks in the aesthetic of proper racing stopwatch, a visual throwback to British and European motorsport culture of decades past. Layered onto the dial are rose gold applied indices, hands, and the Seiko logo at 12 o'clock. This instantly elevates the watch, giving it a presence that feels far more expensive than the price tag would suggest. The applied furniture has just enough sparkle to catch the light without tipping into bling, and the matching accents on the sub-dial show a level of attention to detail you don't always see at this tier. Practicality hasn't been ignored either. Seiko added Fortina shaded lume to the hands, along with small lume pips beneath each 5-minute marker. It's not dive watch bright, but it's more than adequate for quick checks in low light and pairs well with the rose gold dial furniture to further accentuate the old money cool looks. All of this is framed by a railroad-style minute track that underscores the racing chronograph theme, something further reinforced by the stopwatch-style pushers. Rather than opting for flat or recessed pushers, Seiko chose tall, rounded ones. They feel deliberate, tactile, and satisfying to press, while also being aesthetically cohesive with the sporty vibe. It's not a full-on racing chronograph, but the DNA is unmistakable. The tri-compact's layout at 3, 6, and 9 features white subdials recessed into cutouts, each bordered by its own miniature railroad track. It adds depth, structure, and balance to the dial. And, of course, in true Seiko fashion, they couldn't resist squeezing in a date window. Yes, the 4:30 placement is cursed, but to their credit, they have color matched the date wheel to the dial, which does a lot to maintain visual harmony. Personally, I think the design will look cleaner without it, but at least the effort to integrate it sympathetically is there, so well done Seiko. Capping it all off is a vintage style boxed Hardlex crystal, and this is where things get really fun. On paper, it's Hardlex, not sapphire, so scratches will come sooner than you like. But that said, that domed distortion at the edges, it oozes old school charm. It's what gives the Green Racer its personality, the kind of crystal that makes you tilt your wrist in the sunlight just to watch the dial warp and shimmer beneath. Even better, the tachymeter bezel doesn't just sit flush, as you'd see on modern sports chronograph like the Seiko Speed Timer or the Tag Heuer Carrera. Instead, it wraps around and cradles the crystal, accentuating that vintage charm while tying the entire design together. I've been talking about style a lot in this review. Unsurprisingly then, I think the Green Racer lends itself exceptionally well to strap changes, so it's a real shame that the bracelet isn't easier to remove. Throw it on a glossy leather strap, and you've got something a tad more dressy and serious. Put it on a more rugged sailcloth or straight, and you've got yourself something that feels like a vintage sports chronograph. This flexibility is core to its allure and value proposition. The 8T63 chronograph quartz movement is a Seiko staple. Being accurate, reliable, and refreshingly fuss-free, it offers 3 years of battery life assuming the chronograph function isn't used too intensively. The chronograph reset is crisp, and the pushers make it feel intuitive and tactile. Yes, the chrono seconds ticks rather than sweeps, but for most people, the trade-off of accuracy and low maintenance is more than worth it. And of course, let's talk about the price. Coming up at an RRP of USD 450 or approximately 695 Aussie dollars, this doesn't feel like a great deal on Quartz, but as you well know, RRP is deceiving. Despite only having been released 2 months ago, in early July 2025, you can easily find this at about 25% off at most retailers, which I think makes the Green Racer a really compelling offering for its price point. It stands shoulder to shoulder with microbrand offerings in terms of design originality, and it doesn't rely on replication or in-your-face aesthetic cues from luxury chronographs that peers like Timex appears to be releasing just about every month in a billion different colorways. Now, for the inevitable drawbacks. That boxed Hardlex crystal looks great, but it isn't sapphire, and long-term wearers will need to live with scratches. The bracelet is better than Seiko's older efforts, but it still lags behind competitors in terms of refinement and quality, particularly when compared to the entry-level darlings of watch enthusiasts today, Chinese factory brand releases. And for enthusiasts who can't get past the Quartz Chrono tick, this will never scratch the itch of a mechanical speedmaster. The Green Racer is good proof that Seiko hasn't forgotten its roots, even as its mainline model lines climb higher in price. It's compact, it's stylish, and it's so very fun. And it's got details that make it feel special, from the sunburst dial and the rose gold furniture, to the box crystal, stopwatch pushers, and an almost period correct bracelet. Yes, there are certainly compromises, but there's also genuine vintage character here, and that's something a lot of affordable chronographs struggle to deliver. So, is the Green Racer the hidden gem of Seiko's catalog, or is it destined to remain the quiet achiever in the shadows of its bigger brothers? What other Quartz chronographs do you own that beat out the Green Racer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you've enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. Until next we meet, keep your watches wound so you are right on time.